Lady Lucas's promise of a military regiment coronet marriage was not long delayed. Indeed, this very night we were invited to Lucas Lodge for the formal marriage welcoming, to the excessive delight of Lydia and Kitty, and Mamma as well, who is of course anxious for another opportunity to present Jane as the eligible match for Mr. Bingley.
He's just what a young man ought to be, Lizzie. Sensible, good-humored, lively, and I never saw such humble manners.
And he's handsome too, which a young man ought to be if he possibly can. And I could not help seeing that you're at least twice as beautiful as every other woman in the room. Yes, I do believe like him. You like many a stupider person.
Lizzie.
Mr. Bingley seems to admire Jane a great deal, Lizzie.
Yes, I'm happy for her, Charlotte.
Mrs. Bennet, I beg that you do not suspicion any hint of offense just now in my wishing to see your daughter soon married.
Not at all. I'm sure you are sincere, and I wish the same good fortune with all my heart, else they end up destitute.
You're alluding perhaps to the fate of your husband's estate.
I do indeed, sir. It is grievous for my poor girls to have their father's money held with them.
I assure you, madame, I am very sensible to the heart of my fair cousins. It is, in fact, my reason for seeking this meeting at Longbourn. You see, my patroness, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, advised me most conveniently. During my last visit to Roseland, she said,
Mr. Collins, you must marry. Choose properly. Let her be an active, useful sort of person, not from hiding to make a small income go a good way. If you can find such a woman, bring her to Hunsford Parsonage, and I will visit her to give my approval.
now allow me to say, Mr. that I take Lady Catherine de Bourgh's generous condescension as among the best of the advantages in my power to offer you a child. For who else could...
Mr. Collins, am I to understand that you are planning to make amends for the state of the Italians to marry one of my daughters?
Oh, why, of course. Oh, dear, did I not speak plainly? I do so hope to always be sweet.
Mr. Collins!
I thought this an excellent...
He'll be a soldier after all! Perhaps you might show Mr. Collins the lay of the shops. Let's see. He does so wish to become acquainted with Barrington.
Miss Elizabeth, you are so very generous in your attentions to me. I promise I will not be gone from your side a moment longer than necessary.
Do take your time, Mr. Collins. Courteous fellow. Is he not the new vicar at Hunsford Parsonage? Yes, are you familiar with it? Only with benefactors. Not Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Yes, you are acquainted? No, indeed, but I believe we shall soon have fulfilled her influence through our esteemed guest. Forgive my rudeness, Mr. Wickham. I fear we've all made a rather ridiculous first impression.
Nothing of the kind. In fact, I find your relations to be quite charming, Miss Bennet. And believe me, my life has avoided the desire to make friends based on the merits of their own characters rather than those of their relations.
Can such a man truly exist?
Jane, look, it's Mr. Bingley.
Prejudice, you're just on our way to Longbourn to drive our office.
You are too kind, Mr. Bingley.
Are you quite recovered from your ordeal, Jane? Miss Bennet, I confess, no one hurt to you. You'd certainly not be out of the here, but you're not feeling quite well.
Well,
Oh, Mr.
And you can be assured to be favored with equal condescension once we are married. Why, just before my journey to Longbourn, she said,
Mr. Collins, you must marry. Choose properly. Let him be. You are too hasty, sir. You forget I have made no answer. I am honored by the compliment of your proposal, but it would be impossible to accept.
I know it is usual for young ladies to reject addresses of a man they secretly mean to accept. When I do you the honor of asking again, I expect to hear a more favorable answer.
However, your expectation is rather extraordinary. I am perfectly serious in my refusal.
You flatter me, my dear. I know my hand is worthy of your acceptance, and being that I bring the bird. Do not make yourself uneasy about your apparel, dear cousin. Lady Catherine will not think the worst of you being poorly dressed.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
You are very genteel and pretty, Chandler.
Thank you, your ladyship.
Is on the sisters.
Poor man.
And are any of your younger sisters out?
Yes, ma'am. All. All. What? All five?
And that can be most shocked to hear. Do not agree, Mr. Collins. Is most irregular. Your sister is very young.
My youngest is not yet
most ingenious plan, your ladyship.
Pray, who are these nephews that even Lady Catherine must wait to be graced with?
Oh, but I quite forgot them.
Why? What's the matter?
Lady Catherine nephews
Charlotte?
nephews are
Colonel Fitzwilliam and Mr. Darcy, ma'am.
Mr. Darcy? I'm afraid I'm not so much for a relief.
I've heard different about
Do you mean to frighten me, Mr. Darcy, by having come in such a state as what is, having told your cousin what is, I am sure, an ungenerous account of our conversations?
You do not really believe I could entertain any design of fighting.
What are you saying, Mr. Darcy?
Silly.
What are you telling us? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about music, madam. Music.
Music.
Then pray speak loud. I must have my share of conversation. Miss Bennet has presented in favor of us with a song this evening, though I entertain no notion that she will be in greater position. We shall see how poorly she has fared without a governess.
Indeed, madam. Let's see if that is correct. Shall we discuss this all with the
I'm afraid so, Colonel. On this point, Lady Catherine and I are of one. I'm not so proficient at the pianoforte, am I, Mr. Darcy? I believe you once had the displeasure of hearing me play in the field.
My son is always professing even generated. I greatly for your experience in it. I greatly see this in all schools.
I thank you for your compliments, but I cannot accept them. Surely, as his cousin, you have far more reason to behave with such much familiarity as I bear. I have taken the news.
Where are you going, Fitzwilliam? I'm entitled to know!
Applied directly to the housekeeper of Pemberley to inquire whether or not the family would be at home. Mercifully, she replied,
The family are always Darcy. Though I know this to be impossible, I instantly resolved on setting off for this place, that I might make my sentiments plain.
If you found it to be impossible, I wonder at your ladyship taking the trouble of coming so far. What could you mean by it?
And once to insist upon having such reports universally contradicted.
Your coming is rather a confirmation, is it not, if such a report exists?
If to pretend to be ignorant of it,
I never heard of it.
and can you likewise declare there's no foundation for it.
I cannot pretend to present equal frankness with your ladyship. You may ask questions which I shall choose not to answer.
This is not to be borne, Miss Bennet. I insist on being satisfied. Has my nephew made you an offer of marriage?
Your ladyship has declared it to be impossible.
It ought to be so, but your arts and allurements may have, in a moment of base infatuation, made him forget himself. You may have drawn him in.
If I have, I shall be the last person to confess it.
Miss Bennet, do you know who I am? I am almost the nearest relation he has in the world. I am entitled to know all his dearest concerns.
So you are not entitled to know mine, nor was such behavior as this ever induced me to be explicit.
Obstinate, headstrong girl, I'm ashamed of you! Is Mr. Darcy's future to be threatened by marriage to a young woman of inferior birth? If you were sensible of your own good, you would not wish to quit the sphere in which you have been brought up.
Lady Catherine, and marrying your nephew, I would not be considering myself as quitting that sphere. He is a gentleman. I am a gentleman's daughter. Thus far, we are equals. If I am Mr. Darcy's choice, why should I not accept him?
True, but who is your mother? Who are your uncles and aunts? Do you imagine me ignorant of their station?
Whatever my connections may be, if there are no objections to Mr. Darcy, they can be nothing to you.
Tell me once and for all, are you engaged to him? I am not. And will you promise me to never enter into such an engagement?
I will make no promise of that kind.
Miss Bennet, I will not.
Miss Lady Catherine de Bourgh. When I was your guest at Rosie's Park, Mr. Darcy did come and offer me his hand.
Then it is that
I refused him.
you refused him. A Hertfordshire girl refusing to be mistress of Pemberley? Impossible!
I care not for Pemberley, or Derbyshire, or all the riches I know he may offer me. I cared only for my own happiness, and I was convinced, your ladyship, he could not make me happy. You see, your nephew slighted me at an assembly once, and I'm afraid I never forgave him for that. In my wounded vanity, I chose to believe the very worst about him. And when every day there was growing evidence of his regard and affection for me, I chose to see only arrogance and conceit. I treated him with mockery and contempt, gave him no encouragement, and yet he came to Hunsford and spoke of love. It's been many months since I had come to realize how very wrong I had been. Bear witness to his goodness and kindness, his unfathomable generosity, his loyalty and devotion to his friends, his sister. I don't believe I've ever known a better man, and I'm quite certain I could never love any other. So I cannot promise what you ask, your ladyship. I can only promise that if I am still so fortunate as to be loved by Mr. Darcy, there isn't a soul in the world who can induce me to refuse him now. Least of all you.
And this is your final resolve? You would marry him for love?
I would.
Very well. Darcy will know how to act. Do try to get it right this time.
Mr. Darcy! Mr. Darcy, I'm a very selfish creature. Please allow me to thank you for your unexampled kindness to my poor sister. For, on behalf of my entire family, since they don't know to whom they are indebted, please do not be cross with Lydia for telling me. I'm glad she did, and we most certainly did for legally exchange now. Indeed, my whole family is so very much in your debt.
You must thank me.
make sure your students came to see, and again, please don't leave until they help us put things back together. So, thank you.